Dear students, I am Jugal Panchal. Welcome you in today's lecture of steam calorimeters. What is steam calorimeter? Why we should use it and how it affects the energy of steam? This is the first question which we will learn today. Second is the types of steam calorimeter. Third is the construction of bucket calorimeter. Fourth, observation. And finally, we will learn about dryness fraction calculation. First question, why steam calorimeters should be used? It's a device used to determine the specific energy in calorie or joule per unit mass of wet steam by finding the dryness fraction of steam. What is the dryness fraction? You should be already aware that dryness fraction is amount of dry steam present in total mass of wet steam. Let us say Ms is dry steam and Ms plus Mw is mass of wet steam. So it's a ratio of Ms divided by Ms plus Mw. So its minimum value can be 0 and maximum can be 1. How dryness fraction affect the steam energy? We can say that for wet steam, the enthalpy H wet is given as Hf plus XHfg, so it is directly affecting the specific enthalpy H wet, or we can say energy of the wet steam. Now let us quickly learn about types of steam calorimeters. Mainly there are 4 types. Today we are going to learn about the first, that is bucket or barrel calorimeter. Next is a separating calorimeter. Next is throttling, and afterwards finally combined separating and throttling. So there are 4 types of calorimeter, out of which we are going to learn today the first bucket or barrel calorimeter, say the basic calorimeter in which the steam is actually being condensed, right? So let us quickly check out the first calorimeter, bucket calorimeter. This is its construction. You can see that there are total 13 components listed on the right hand side and shown in the figure. How the construction look, you can see here that at the bottom most there is a component number 3, that's a weighing platform. Here the dark color black line indicates the copper calorimeter, number 1. Number 2 is the outer insulated vessel. Number 4 is the water which we are going to fill inside the calorimeter once the experiment starts. Number 5 is the thermometer connected from the number 6, which is a wooden lead. Number 7 is the sampling tube through which steam sample will enter inside the calorimeter by number 8, connecting it with number 8, and it is say bottom perforated ring. Number 9 is a pressure gauge through which we will be measuring the gauge pressure of the entered sample steam, and number 10 is a control valve used for entrance of the steam. Number 11 is the main steam pipe through which steam is actually flowing. Number 12 is a wooden block which is separating the inner hopper calorimeter with the outer vessel. Number 3 is a airspace. Now before doing the actual experiment to find the dryness fraction, we will have to take few observations before the sampling of the steam inside the calorimeter. Which are these observations? Say we have seen here in this figure that the number 1 is copper calorimeter. So what is its weight? We will have to measure its weight first when it is empty. So let us say M1 is a weight. So first observation is before sampling, mass M1, that is mass of copper calorimeter, mcal in kilogram. Number 2 will be the mass of water poured inside the vessel, M2. Number 3 is the temperature of this cold water and calorimeter. We assume that both are at same temperature using zeroth law of thermodynamics. So there is a isothermal temperature between water and calorimeter, and it is T1 degree Celsius. Number 4 is specific heat of copper vessel, and number 5 is specific heat of water. These 5 things are initially required before taking the actual sample of steam. Once you note down this 5, you will have to take a steam sample into the calorimeter. And how? By opening the control valve. Steam will enter through the sampling tube, goes to the perforated ring, bottom ring, and mixes well with the water. Here, after mixing, it gets condensed into the saturated water. And during this process, we also have to measure the pressure of steam by using pressure gauge. As well as for a few minutes, we will have to wait to achieve the steady state temperature inside the copper calorimeter, so that temperature does not changes with time, and we will be having no effect of time on our readings. Next is, during sample, as I told you, find the pressure from the pressure gauge, and based on that gauge pressure you find first absolute pressure, and then on the base of absolute pressure calculate sensible heat HF1 and latent heat HFG. After that, say our sampling work is finished, so now we will have to check the mass of warm water inside a vessel, as it is M3 kilogram, and temperature of warm saturated water T2 degrees Celsius. Here, as I told you, steam is being condensed, and that's why mass of warm water is increased compared to M2. M3 will be larger, and similarly, if steam is at higher temperature compared to water, then warm water will be having temperature T2 greater than T1. Based on this temperature T2, now we will have to find from the steam table that what is the value of sensible heat HF2. Initially we had find sensible heat based on pressure, that was say at the starting of the sample, and now at end of sample we will have to find sensible heat based on temperature T2, that is a saturated water temperature. Remember, both will be different. Now we will have to take the calculation. During calculation, first you find out mass of wet steam, which is actually condensed, that is M3 minus MW, so it is written as MS kilogram. Next, apply the energy balance. What is it? It's according to first law of thermodynamics. We can write down that heat lost by the steam is equal to heat gained by water inside the calorimeter and copper calorimeter. Now, heat lost by steam, how to find? It's a heat of steam converted from wet steam to saturated liquid, right? And this heat lost is equal to the heat gained by water and calorimeter. We know that for wet steam, formula of the heat or say energy is given by ms, mass of steam, into HF1 plus x times HFG1, and finally it becomes saturated liquid, so the final energy will be HF2. So there is a difference between these two energy. This HF1 plus x HFG1 indicates the energy of wet steam, and HF2 indicates energy of saturated liquid. The difference between these two energy is actually lost by the steam, and it is gained by the water in form of sensible heat, so there will be rise in temperature T2 minus T1. Similarly, T2 minus T1 temperature rise will be observed in the copper calorimeter also, so we can write down heat gain by water as MC CPC delta T plus MW CPW delta T. Now let us take delta T common, so our equation becomes this. And now for more simplification, let us take common this CPW value. So by taking CPW common, our first term on this right hand side becomes, by the blue color you can see here, highlighted in blue color, it is MC CPC by CPW. Now, by what is the need to do this? Here you can see it's a constant value. Mass of calorimeter is constant. Cp of calorimeter is constant. Cpw is also generally constant. So based on these three values, the first value will be constant, and in every experiment we will be just varying the mass of water only, right? So based on that, we have found one constant term, and it's named as water equivalent of calorimeter, right? And its unit is kilogram, right? We are writing it as M4. So this MC multiplied with CPC divided by CPW, right? This constant term indicates mass of copper calorimeter in terms of water equivalent. So we have given it a name, water equivalent of calorimeter. It is measured in kilogram. Next is calculation. You put up the value M4, and finally by simplification we get this equation: X is equal to ratio of masses M4 plus MW by MS, and ratio of, say, specific heat CPW T2 minus T1 plus HF2 minus HF1 by HFG1. Carried this calculation and finally found this equation. You can see the final equation to calculate dryness fraction. What are the drawbacks of this calorimeter? Say mainly it is approximate method. This is the first one. Why approximate? Because say it does not give accurate value because losses are there, right? And as T2 minus T1 increases, these losses are increases, right? That's why it is less accurate compared to the other methods available for finding dryness fraction. Thank you. With this, I complete the first calorimeter. Thank you.